Heidi, a simplified summary. Chapter 1. Heidi's New Home. Heidi is a young orphaned girl who is brought by her Aunt Diet to live with her grandfather in the Swiss Alps. Her grandfather, whom everyone in the village calls the Arm Uncle, is a gruff and solitary man who lives in a small, simple cabin high up on the mountain. The villagers think he is unfriendly and keep their distance, but Heidi immediately takes to her new home. Despite her grandfather's initial gruffness, Heidi's cheerful and kind nature soon melts his heart. She loves the mountain, the fresh air, and the goats that her grandfather tends. She spends her days exploring the beautiful landscape with Peter, the local goat herd, and quickly becomes friends with him. Chapter 2. A Happy Life in the Alps. Heidi thrives in the mountains. She enjoys her simple life, helping her grandfather with the goats, playing with Peter, and learning about the plants and animals around her. Her grandfather becomes very fond of her, and they form a close bond. Heidi also becomes friends with Peter's blind grandmother, whom she visits often, bringing her joy with her sunny personality and kind heart. Life in the Alps is full of joy and freedom for Heidi, and she couldn't be happier. However, this idyllic life is interrupted when Aunt Diet returns to take Heidi away to Frankfurt, Germany. Data has found Heidi a position as a companion to a wealthy invalid girl named Clara Zezemann, and she insists that Heidi must go. Chapter 3. Life in the City. In Frankfurt, Heidi struggles to adapt to her new life. The city is noisy and crowded, and she misses the mountains terribly. Clara is kind to Heidi, and the two girls become friends, but Heidi is very homesick. She has difficulty adjusting to the strict routines imposed by Clara's stern housekeeper, Miss Rottenmeier, and she feels trapped and lonely in the big house. Despite her unhappiness, Heidi's cheerful nature begins to have a positive effect on those around her. She brings joy and comfort to Clara, and even the grumpy Miss Rottenmeier starts to soften. However, Heidi's homesickness becomes so severe that she begins to sleepwalk and grows very ill. Clara's doctor realizes that Heidi is suffering from being away from her true home and recommends that she return to the Alps. Chapter 4. Back to the Mountains. Heidi is overjoyed to return to her grandfather in the Alps. Her health quickly improves, and she is once again happy and full of life. The fresh air, the mountains, and her simple life with her grandfather bring her back to her old self. The villagers, who had once feared the Alm Uncle, now see how much he cares for Heidi and begin to warm up to him as well. Meanwhile, Clara's grandmother comes to visit Heidi in the Alps and is impressed by the little girl's spirit and kindness. She encourages Heidi to learn to read and write, which Heidi does eagerly, with Peter's help. Chapter 5. Clara's Visit. One summer, Clara comes to stay with Heidi in the Alps, hoping that the fresh mountain air will improve her health. At first, Peter is jealous of Clara and tries to sabotage her visit, but he soon comes to appreciate her company. Clara, who has been unable to walk for years, begins to gain strength from the healthy mountain environment. One day, after much encouragement from Heidi, Clara is able to stand and eventually takes her first steps. The miracle of Clara's recovery brings great joy to everyone, and Clara's father, who comes to take her home, is deeply grateful to Heidi and her grandfather for their care and kindness. Chapter 6. A Bright Future. Clara returns to Frankfurt much healthier and happier, and Heidi remains in the Alps, where she continues to live with her grandfather. The bond between Heidi and her grandfather grows stronger, and they are surrounded by friends and loved ones. The villagers no longer see the Alm Uncle as a gruff, solitary figure, but as a kind man who has been transformed by Heidi's love and kindness. Heidi's life in the Alps is full of happiness, as she continues to bring joy to everyone around her with her bright spirit and loving heart. The novel ends on a hopeful note, with Heidi looking forward to the future, surrounded by the beauty of the mountains and the love of her family and friends.